Hi, my name is Dominique, and I'm going to tell you about my Kundalini experience. First of all, I'm 33 years old and I'm from the Rocky Mountains. Um, I had a Kundalini awakening, full blown activation, is what I would say it is completely, um, about 4 years ago. So, what I want to say is that I never heard anything about Kundalini. I knew a little bit about your chakras, but I couldn't even name them. I have been spiritual and I've been a seeker for a lot of years, but when the Kundalini awakening occurred, I had no prior knowledge and I wasn't seeking anything in life really. I was pretty content and happy. I had just been blessed, and I had had I had been through multiple um, metaphysical, emotional experiences, especially that year. But throughout my life, I've had periods of really strong things, even mental breakdowns. But this particular year, I had met my twin flame, and I didn't know or recognize or know the name for that at the time either until later after my Kundalini awakening. So, first of all, I will just describe physically what took place, and where, and let you know kind of what happened. So, I was feeling pretty good. I was sober. I maybe had smoked bud that day. Oh, I did. I'd done a dab quite a while earlier that day. Felt fine, but I went to a friend's house with my husband, and she hadn't seen me for a long time. She was a mother-like figure, and we were having a good time, and she really admired my life, and it made me start to think about how special I was, and I had a partner that I adored, and my kids, my children, all these wonderful things were really great, and I wasn't even quite sure I deserved them a lot of the time. So, but anyway, I was walking down the hall to use the restroom, and she came by, and we kind of touched and exchanged energy. She said, "Oh, it's all in you," and telling me I could do it and showing me some sort of love, which I was really open to her motherly type love because I wanted it, I yearned for it. So when she touched me, it felt good initially anyway, but it triggered me to have the thought that the universe does love me, and it collectively loved me. I could be loved was more the point, like I love people, and how I've loved and learned to love through betrayal and suffering. So in that moment, it was just a moment's time. She was actually leaving the home, and her teenage children were there and their friends. And I immediately felt, as soon as she walked away, I felt my body and my mind just kind of shaking, and recognizing that I was going on this spiritual trip somewhere that usually would have been way stress induced. So it was kind of unique that it just happened out of a moment of bliss and peace. It felt just vibration strong, and to take me from my physical self, like, oh. So I asked one of my friend's daughters to get my husband and tell him I needed him immediately. He came into where I'd crawled into the restroom. He came in there, and I was well into this, I would say, trance almost, and I was saying, she fucked me. She fucked me. She fucked me. He thought that she had hurt me, and I kind of blamed her almost, but I knew as soon as I had expressed it, my body told me, no, this is you. And you better sit back and watch it because you don't have physical control. I was afraid to look at my husband in the eyes, and I was somewhat conscious enough to recognize where I was, and that there were witnesses, and my young son was there as well. At some points, I think it slightly scared him. However, I was able to just look at him in his eyes and comfort him, and he was fine. It was beautiful. So I went on through this series. It wasn't very graceful in hindsight, but quite graceful considering the power and stuff. It felt so powerful, and there were lumps of emotional baggage, I guess, going through my body and moving. Like, I have 5 children, and I want to say it was just like the end of pregnancy when a baby's moving and it's just really alien-like and big movements. It's like, well, I had these things go through my body, different body parts, and I pointed it out to my husband as I sat on the floor in front of him, trying to comfort me, but sitting more, holding on to my shoulders or emotionally as much as I would let him. Well, I had these things and come out of my body. It felt like they were coming out, and I would release them by saying the painful events that some of them I didn't know, and a lot of them, a ton of them, were with my mother and even my sister and other people who had hurt me, and I just was pulling out baggage from situations even where people were helpless, and I would say the words and then have to ask my husband, what did I say, and he would say it, and I could feel it going through my body again and releasing it on my spine. I can feel it now when I talk to you. And when I started this video, I got goosebumps and stuff. I still, obviously, am still affected by this. It was amazing. Well, throughout the evening, I continued to do that, and it got pretty weird. I would just have to distort myself and go into these weird positions to get stuff out of places, and I was pulling it all out, and it was so much on my back. And then I would have to grind my head on the ground, and never hurting myself, but definitely some weird stuff, and nothing that I could have physically done for that long myself without some sort of assistance, extra energy than what was the norm for me. So I did, I got up on my husband's lap, and he was holding on to me, and my legs wrapped around his, straddling him, facing him. And it felt like, there was three strong pings of sexual, just woo. And I don't know, he could have ejaculated, I'm not sure, doubtful, because it was so fast and so strong. And it felt like at some point we had the choice to follow it or allow me to release this garbage. And thankfully we did release the garbage, and the sexual energy pings continued to offer themselves, so that was good. But then I was straddling him on the toilet, and we were holding on, and it felt like the energy was so strong, if we weren't holding on, that we would be just bouncing or levitating or something. And people were witnessing, and they were just in awe. And it was teenage kids, late teens, early 20s, about 5 or 6 of them, and it was amazing. Like, they even said that it looked like we were pulling off of the floor. But at that time, I finally decided to look my husband in the eyes, and I didn't know that I was going to be okay. I was afraid what he would see. And I looked up in his eyes, nose to nose, and he says that he just looked in my eyes and could see. He thought he would see me checked out, but he could see an infinity of truth, like infinite truth forever. He said it just was a deep, deep, pure place, and I know that that was true. So we went through that series of weird and making sounds, and it was about 8 hours before finally, like, I had the option. Somehow my consciousness, or somehow this energy, asked me if I wanted to release this couple balls of just muck and shit, and if I wanted to release them or give them back to these two particular women in my life that have really done me wrong. And it not that I want to use the word wrong, but like even the consciousness made me aware that I did not like that suffering was immense. And little did I know that I would have further pain and suffering and learn to look at it different. But at the time, it was justified, I guess, by the energy for me to give it back, and I didn't want to. I didn't want anyone to see or feel that, and I let it go. And that may have been the purpose, was to give me the choice to let it go or not. But I don't know. And I didn't know then, and I didn't care to know. It felt like child labor and an orgasm all in one big spiritual way. So from there, I went on to learn about the Kundalini and experience the things that come along with awakening it. And I told you I had some emotional things from my past. Well, I've had a couple real big mental breakdowns almost, and all of it came from wanting to be a good parent and love my unborn first child. So, and just wanting to be a real person. But I just lived my life normally with that always in my heart and following it. So I have met somebody who has a Kundalini awakened or active, and he's a wonderful, powerful, not powerful, effective, and he makes an impression. I really look up to him now, even though then I didn't understand or know what he was dealing with. But other than that, my grandma had taught me a lot of things that are key, I think, to being a person who can suffice that, the means to do that. It wasn't impossible, but the power of the Kundalini is real, and it's beyond my wildest dreams ever. I've always been kind of spoiled, and I've tried to have gratitude and love, but really be the best or the most compassionate and honest person that I can. And behind that is what happened. But the powerful things that and ways that it has affected me is I now have an open connection and a channel with my deceased loved one. It's not always when I want. It's more often, or more likely always, when she wants. I have much more clear messaging with my intuition, and my body tells me things, and my life is very synchronized, and I have great gratitude and appreciation. I try really hard to show it. I'm not perfect, but I've healed back pain, tuberculosis. I've done a lot of healing, and I know my life purpose. I've had intimate connections with music and energy lights, all of those kinds of things. I will never wake up and, knock on wood, and not know who I am, as far as that I am made of love. I am a light being experiencing a physical experience. I am a small piece of one with the life force running through me that animates this body, and somehow consciously I will be able to stay connected to myself, and I know that because of my ancestors. I think the choices that we make are relevant, and I hope to obtain some of the goals and things that my purpose has to do with, and it's protecting and making sure that our children are not taken like the stolen generations. So I hope to make some movement in that, and with the Kundalini power behind me, I hope to heal and open hearts up and really synergize and get things stimulated around me, because the Kundalini, our bodies are mature enough to have that happen if we allow our minds to. I do appreciate you watching the video. I hope it helps. Again, I want to thank my twin flame. I love him, and it wouldn't be possible without him. I hope you enjoyed it.